Okay, so it seems like we have an apology from Cinder. Now, this was literally uploaded like 2 minutes ago. I had notifications on for this. I'm gonna be real. But yeah, pretty much there's been a ton going around. I did say that it would be better if, she waited a couple of weeks to actually, go through everything and address everything, but it's taken her just a day. So it's gonna be very interesting to see what actually goes on. Let's cover exactly what's happened. If you guys don't know what's happened in the Cinder kind of situation so far, obviously you can go back to my previous videos. There's a ton of stuff back there, but let's take a look at, what she has to say. This said, there is nothing I can say to make this better, but I'll try to my best to properly convey my feelings, frustrations, and mistakes. I'd like to explain my point of view and apologize to each party affected. The Redacted has been my co-content creator since I began making content, managing all aspects of what I do, and being a major part of why I'm here. We have also been in a relationship since the start of my endeavors, so that is confirmed. Obviously, a lot of people were kind of speculating that they might have been in a relationship. Now, this is obviously confirmed. This is something that has happened. She's confirmed it here. Now, obviously, they said it's no secret that many VTubers choose to keep their public and personal lives separate, which is fair enough, and they say I'm no different. As of yesterday, he is no longer working with me, and I have not extensively discussed any of this with him. Where our personal situation goes from here will be figured out between us privately, which, yeah, I mean, that's fair enough in terms of the relationship. That's, yeah, fine. They say, I never intended to mention this publicly, but given that the claims are out there, I want everyone to know that I'm taking this seriously. After years of working on everything together, his hyper-business orientated outlook warped my view of what it is I should be doing and what should be important to me as I navigate my this career path. I've a terrible work-life balance as it is, and being around projects and streams all day, every day, made me lose sight of the point. It took all of this happening for me to realize this behavior isn't normal or healthy, and it's not an outlook I want to have. This doesn't absolve me of the things I've willingly done wrong and went along with, or the way I treated people who are fully undeserving, which, yeah, is true. We've seen the receipts, we've seen everything that's gone on. It's pretty bad, and it's going to be pretty hard to, kind of, make up for all of this and, fix, your kind of, I guess, rapport. They say, in regards to Nanoless, for the majority of the time working with her, Red was the one almost solely doing the communication about new plans and negotiations through his private DMs. Nano has a project server where all are part of and where the actual art and models were worked on, but the conversations were focused around the work itself. I was not fully aware of the extent of Red's manipulation over Nano's commission decisions, and I should have been more diligent in my oversight. Now, I think that is, I feel like that is believable. Obviously, from what we saw with the screenshots, it seems like it was like mostly, obviously Redacted doing a lot of this stuff, but it was Cinder did chime in a little bit. So looking at the screenshots and what was in, the screenshots that we saw, it does make sense that she only had a limited view, but she still knew a little bit, I'm assuming, just from what we've seen and what, she said. She said, every time I'd been told that Nano had agreed to work on a new commission with me, it had been willingly and with excitement. From my point of view, it was that she genuinely wanted to be working on these things. I want to work with Nano as much as I possibly could, making her art the face of my brand. We had come to the conclusion that it'd be my best interest to talk with Nano about making more time for my projects by negotiating with her to cut out other work. This was wrong of us to push it on her, and it was wrong of us for the other creators who wanted the chance of working with her. There was only one specific creator who was responsible for naming and pressuring Nano into reconsidering projects, with not an entire list. Of her own volition, Nano cancelled a large portion of her model commissions last September. However, the claim that I was using her is wrong. I've always treated Nano with respect and as my friend. I did give her a lot of work, and we did everything we could to accommodate her schedule if she needed more time or a break, and even helped her with her own project payments multiple times. I've invited her on my stream, I've sent her my merch and things she's made for me, and I was always open to talking to her about things outside of our projects in instances we would message each other. Now, obviously, yeah, they go into talking about the exclusivity deal, which is something that was the main issue. Obviously, it's fine, because I feel like a lot of these stuff that was going on with Nano, they were getting paid. It's not like, Nano wasn't getting paid for any of the work they were doing. It was just more the fact that they were being almost gatekept from other VTubers, which was the main problem people had. No one has a problem with them, mistreating them or saying, obviously they did manipulate Nano into kind of, not working with other, VTubers and stuff like that. But they say, yeah, regarding the exclusivity deal made between them, I had no part in the direct negotiations of their eventual agreement, and had no knowledge of Bao and Cotton being included in this list. If I had known my friends were included, I would have said something to put a stop to it. I was only aware of it being about one person who was unfairly pursuing. When Nano had messaged me about this agreement almost a month later, I was under the assumption this was only about Silvervale. So yeah, they were thinking that a lot of this going after other VTubers and stuff, apparently from her perspective, it was only Silvervale that they're going after, which she does admit was wrong and was bad. So Silvervale seems to be like the most affected one here. Now, obviously, yeah, I can kind of see that. Obviously, with a lot of the evidence that's come out, it seems like Redacted definitely has a bigger part in this than Sinder does. But Sinder obviously still has the kind of part to do with Silvervale. Now, yeah, obviously she says she didn't know about Bao and Cotton being included in this list, but the fact that, you know, there is a list in the first place, you know, is kind of crazy. I feel like that's pretty crazy from the beginning that there's a list and that, you know, oh, I didn't know they're on the list. Well, there shouldn't be a list in the first place. I was upset and my initial messages to her were very guilt-trippy, but I wasn't going to force Nano to do anything she wasn't okay with, and tried reassuring her that I was okay with her decision. Nano had also never come to me seriously and professionally, as her document was looking to address the issues she had with either of us, or to terminate our partnership. I had no idea there was even a conversation about Shy Lily recently between Red and Nano until reading her document. It's true I confided in Red that lately I hadn't been hearing from Lily like I had in the past, and was worried something was wrong, but that's as far as it went, and he took it upon himself to try digging for more info. So it is kind of coming out. Obviously, it's really hard whenever we, you know, look at apologies like this because we don't know how much is true. Obviously, there hasn't been any screenshots or any proof so far. This is a pretty long document, by the way. It's like 7 pages long, and I haven't seen a single screenshot yet. But, you know, if it is what she's saying, then it does make sense. It does line up with what we've seen. And, but again, there is still that massive part on Cinder's fault, which, you know, still has, you know, it doesn't make a difference really. You know, she still has done bad things towards Nano. Now, they say, I had no idea those, oh no, even we've already read that, obviously, they keep going on. They say, it's true, I'd confided in Red lately that I've been hearing for Lily, and he took it upon himself to try doing for more info, and I was never aware that Nano was ever planning to work on a model for another one of my friends. Geary, I do not condone anything about what Red said about Bao in these DMs either, and him using we or our in this context is horribly incorrect, and I believe was done to gain greater credibility behind what he was saying. Yes, Red and I were initially upset when Bao hired my editor, and I took it personally when I shouldn't have. I felt as if maybe my content wasn't good enough, or like I wasn't paying enough for his work, but I accepted it and was happy for him for getting that bag and supporting one of my friends at the time. And yes, I was also upset when Sak, the Bosch Rush MV editor, had told us that he won't be working on any future projects with us and would instead be working exclusively for Bao. But Red got it in his head that it was all Bao's fault that it happened, and seemingly held a grudge against it. Now, I mean, again, it does make sense, but it seems like a lot of this is just kind of pushing this all on Red. I feel like, you know, of course Redacted, you know, did a ton wrong, but I feel like a lot of this is literally just throwing him under the bus right now. Now, I don't know how much of this is true. I don't know if, like, you know, maybe she was just upset and she didn't, you know, want anybody to take any action or, like, manipulate anybody, you know, to actually go against it. But we do know that she was not very happy with Bao at the time. They say, you know, he was very passionate about Boss Rush and the potential future projects around it, but he told me without an MV editor as talented as Sak, the future projects wouldn't reach the same heights, so he created this headcanon that's laid out in those DMs. I wasn't convinced this was the case, but it's my fault for speaking with Bao about these things. For never speaking with Bao about these things directly to clear things up and letting it spiral to the point it got to. Yeah, exactly. That is something that she should have done from the beginning. Just talk to Bao about it and how either you don't like it or, you know, some kind of solution that you can make behind it. Now, obviously, we keep on going and say every comment here about her own music, guilt tripping, and claims about our shared feelings towards her are disgusting. I honestly don't know why he thought this way about my close friend beyond resentment over those two things, and why it was so worth sabotaging her over. The It's Just Business screenshot of my DMs and Nano's document was from November of 2023, and I'll go into my thought process of everything I said here. What Red was trying to explain to Nano is that if everyone has a model by her, then the innate value of her models overall are diminished by the oversaturation of that type of model out there, obviously, which we saw in the screenshots earlier. They said if everyone in the world had a VTuber model done by her, then the value of her having a model wouldn't be the same as if there were only a handful of them, which he viewed as a negative for me. I understand where he was coming from with this, but in the VTuber space, this isn't something we should have pursued. which again, totally true. Nano has an amazing skill where she's able to draw each of her VTuber children uniquely, so I was never upset seeing new model siblings, which again, I mentioned that in my last video. You know, artists can, you know, design different types of characters. Different, you know, VTubers have different designs. They're not all going to look the same, even if they're drawn by the same person. Now, they say, in many cases, they were cheering on at their debut and looking to collab with them as sisters when I could. Me saying it's just business was referring to my acceptance of Nano's business decisions. Whether she chose to work with me or not, this was not in reference to anyone's model being cancelled, further explaining to her that it's okay if she chooses not to work with me. I can understand where the next part can sound manipulative, but my intention was to reminisce about the journey we'd had together up to this point. Since at this time I wasn't sure if this was where Nano and I would stop working together as frequently as we'd been, and I'd have to look for a new model artist. I then encouraged her to work on projects she's excited about, while I talk with Red to find a project that would work with her schedule. So again, you know, she said, you know, she can understand why it sounds manipulative, but let's be real, it is pretty manipulative. You know, you can say something sounds manipulative, but also at the same time, it can also be pretty manipulative, you know, going and saying like, oh, hey, you know, we've had all of these good times, we've had all of this and things like that, like kind of like manipulating her into, you know, staying. You're still being manipulative. Like, even if you say, oh, it sounds like it, it's not, you just are. They say, when talking about Silvervale, I need to start at the beginning. Before I was Sinder, I was a pink cherry blossom girl named Tashi that did ASMR content. When the VTuber boom happened in 2020, I knew I wanted to join in. Red and I contacted an artist in October, and they were set to start my VTuber design by December. The plan was to take my cherry blossom persona, Tashi, and make her a pink and white wolf girl VTuber. In November of the same year, Silvervale revealed her Sakura wolf redesign. I'd heard that Silvervale earlier that year, but didn't watch any of her streams at all. We knew we had to pivot before we were stuck with a design that would just be a copy one of one of the most popular VTubers at the time. Like I've explained on my stream, I knew I wanted to be a wolf girl, so I mixed my love with okami and metal music into the design and came out to be a hellhound. My name was originally going to be Ember, but Red came up with the name Sinder since it was a mix of sin and cinder. Both hell and fire themed. It was only a coincidence that it ended up being similar to Silver, which I can kind of see, Cinder, Silver. I was genuinely interested in pursuing a friendship with her and drew fan art of myself and us together. On the other hand, Red was in my ear the whole time saying how great working together would be, since again, he's been in the business-orientated side of my brand. Since I started streaming, I've been ruthlessly compared to Silvervale, being called the discount version of her. I was accused of copying her design, copying her personality, even copying her laugh of all things. And there was a large number of people who were diehard believers in the fact that I stole all of the attributes maliciously for my own gain, citing the art I posted of us together, calling her an inspiration. When in reality, this was referring to a decision to become a hellhound. The only time Silvervale was mentioned in the original designing of my character was when we explained why we were pivoting to something else, and there was no references of her character involved. I grew more and more resentful of Silver over the time, between the constant belittling of myself and controversy around my first waifu cup and other incidents. Even though she herself never interacted with me directly, and again, that's just totally wrong, you know? Silvervale obviously didn't do anything wrong to you. Silvervale never said anything to you. Silvervale didn't instigate any of this kind of stuff, and you built up this resentment for her. I mean, you know, obviously, this is just explaining her actions, but again, it is pretty scummy how, you know, you built up this resentment because of her fans, you know? It's not a whole Silvervale thing, it's not her fault, and obviously, yeah, we can keep going in it. So the point I was working with Nano consistently, we brought up not making any more models for her. If a VTuber model is how everyone recognizes you, then it'd be harder to compare us directly if we no longer look alike. Which, again, I understand the reasoning behind that, but kind of like the way you go around it, and like, you know, it would have been easier just to, you know, talk to Silvervale, talk to someone, just be like, hey, we got a similar, you know, design, we got similar like artists, or the same artist, sorry, so we're going to look the same. Is there any chance we could do something different? Is there any chance we could fix this to make it better for both of us? You don't just go ahead and manipulate the artist into thinking, oh, you shouldn't work for anymore, you should cancel these orders. Said Red pushed for this even harder than I ever did. He knew how much it affected me for years, but no matter what the outcome was, I wasn't going to walk away from working with Nano. Silver was completely undeserving of this treatment, and it was my own insecurities that led me to making this choice. I became unapologetically evil towards her due to no direction action of her own. There is no excuse for any of this. Exactly, okay. And then obviously moving on from Silvervale, let me talk about Spite. Now, this is another person that we talked about. Obviously, their doc came out of them being compared constantly to Cinder. They say, once again, I had no involvement or knowledge of Red bringing up Spite to Nano in 2023. My only personal involvement with excluding someone specific from working with Nano was Silver. My design sheet and outfit were finished and made public at the very start of 2021. The first thing she mentions is a debut teaser in 2022 that was apparently posted on the same day as her original debut, which I honestly don't know if at the time this was intentional or not. I don't know when I first discovered Spite, and it could have been after she debuted. When I first debuted, I was very possessive of my design details. I made it a year and a half since my design sheet was finished and public to having a full VTuber debut, as I watched everything grow and change from the sidelines. And I didn't want anyone else to capitalize on my concept before I could. Soon after my original debut, I remember Spite getting an update to her model that made it seem like she more closely resembled me, including fire added to her model. Without evidence, I saw it and thought that she must have copied me, but I never did anything about it other than voice my frustrations to Red. I didn't want to start any drama with anyone, and I didn't have any ownership of fire as a design detail. The references for the ripped shirt and short outfit on my bikini model was given to Nano in June 2022 with the purpose of having a cover-up outfit that'd be safe for Twitch. The merch art she's referring to was designed around my concept of my fire changing blue. The fact that the rest of the art was grayscale was the artist's choice, since it was going on the back of the hoodie, and I didn't really have a say, or at least I didn't counter that being the final decision. There was no intention to deliberately look like Spite with this piece. Unfortunately, both my Angel and Sleepy outfits being similar to Spite has done in the past was just a coincidence. I'd always planned to one day make an Angel counterpart to my Demon outfit when it was being made in 2023, and my original reference sheet laid the groundwork for that idea. I've never liked theming anything around my brand in a religious light, so I chose to make my Angel form more Greek Valkyrie than biblical, which also it's a similar look to my demon form, which I can kind of see. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that Spite was talking about, it was a lot of things that could have just been coincidences, and I do understand the fact that it could have just been a coincidence, but again, there's no kind of proof or anything behind this. We haven't seen any screenshots yet, which is kind of disappointing to see. Obviously, we keep going. They said the Sleepy outfit was a last-minute decision to pivot from a fully new 3.0 model because I had the opportunity to work with GamerSups on an AFK flavor. Spite never should have received the hate comments over her outfit, or any comments comparing us, or belittling her because of my existence, and I never advocated for anyone to do so, especially given my experience. Spite also brought up another creator who reached out to her about their past experience with me, and I can only assume it's Nyan Tales. They are an ASMR artist who at one point posted a Hellhound OC for one of their upcoming ASMR videos, and it was undoubtedly created using me as a reference. This was right after my debut, and like I said, I was very protective of my design elements being unique to me, and I overreacted. Shortly after, I apologized and they agreed to adjust the character design, and I thought the matter was settled. So again, it seems like there was some cases of, Cinder being copied, which makes sense. She was very popular. The design is also very popular. People are going crazy about it over on Twitter. But again, I can see why you'd be protective about it, but I think going too over the top, it's just like too far, And they say at the very start of my online career, I was a GFE ASM artist. Before I started my channel, I had gotten into listening to roleplay audios myself. I'd always been a shut-in throughout high school and college, and I wasn't happy where I was with my life and relationship were at the time. They say, after uploading my first few audios to my channel, started growing fast. This was the time I was inundated with so many people wanting to know me and talk to me, and I got lost in the excitement of it all, not fully committing to the terms with these messages being because of the kind of content I was making. I was immature and inexperienced with how to conduct myself online. I have never had many IRL friends and have met Rain doing ASMR. I quickly became comfortable chatting with him about everything, divulging my grievances about my personal life when I shouldn't have. I cheated on my boyfriend with Rain in these conversations, flirting and sexting. I used Rain for emotional comfort and sexual fantasy while I let my real life relationship collapse. So this is now confirmed. The stuff that Rain put out, obviously people were skeptical. They didn't know, what this was about. And well, it seems like this is true as well. Cinder also cheated on her boyfriend with this one guy and pretty much just used him. It said it was about my dissatisfaction with my personal life and escaping into messages with someone who I'd found through content focused around girlfriend and boyfriend RP. It was never about climbing the ladder with Rain, and I find that being his takeaway from why I moved on baffling, which I do think is a little bit weird, But again, like still a lot of the situation going on with Rain is obviously true, and it's kind of messed up. Like, let's be real. They say by the time I was ready to debut as Cinder, I wanted to leave that in the past. Still to this day, I regret my decision and have been living with it since, and I was lucky to be able to mend my relationship after this. They say, and lastly, I want to address Peaches. There's a very big problem I have, and I'm sure many others in my position do too. At the end of the day, I'm one person. I am one person working on multiple products with multiple companies, talking to dozens of people on stream for hours almost every day. I've never had a big social battery, and I get tired very easily when interacting with people. I haven't had much energy at all over the past year, leading me to take frequent naps. I rarely have been able to keep up with my closest handful of friends on a frequent basis, let alone everyone else. Red has always been a big help in keeping up with things, but he doesn't do everything. I'm sorry I made you feel forgotten, Peaches. I've always cherished your friendship, and I was so incredibly excited to meet you in Paris. I'm so grateful for everything you've done for me, and I've never thought to purposely drop you because I could. I'm sorry, I know I've made a lot of people feel forgotten or ignored. It's easy to get caught up in the projects or what I'm doing while I have the energy to do it. That way, people fall by the wayside. I understand the feelings of those who resent me over this, and all I can say is sorry. So, again, she's just pretty much being a bad friend there. Not much else to say from that. I don't deserve to be able to contact everyone involved directly to personally apologize, so I'll do it here while I have the chance. To Nano, I'm sorry I let things get to this point or even entertained the thought of you working exclusive with me. That's not fair to you. I wouldn't be here without you, and I wouldn't have been able to do most of what I've already done without you. I felt overly attached to our relationship over the past 4 years. I loved your work so much that I wanted to make myself exclusive to your art, and I should have never sought those feelings to be reciprocated. Everything you've worked on for me was always so perfect, and I lost sight of how everyone else around me would have felt. I had no intentions of pressuring you into anything, but looking back on my clouded judgment, I can see how my messages felt that way. When I talked about my models helped you improve, I meant that as looking back on how far we've come together. We've been friends for so long and cheered each other on when we both started growing and getting more opportunities like plushies, figures, etc. You'd been my exclusive artist for full live 2D models for the majority of my time as a VTuber, and of course I would have been sad if you didn't want to continue that relationship. I saw you as someone I trusted and loved and wanted to make sure you were still taking care of yourself with all the projects you took on, mine or otherwise. I never saw you as a business partner. I thought I was reassuring you that I'd always be understanding if you wanted to move on to other projects. I genuinely appreciated our friendship. I always saw you as a close friend, and I'm sorry for what I put you through. Then we got a message to Bao as well. Obviously, that first Nano one, I mean, you know, it's an apology. We can't really critique it. It's just like, it's whether this person accepts it. I mean, it's all right, but again, it doesn't change a lot of the stuff that Cinder's done. Cinder's pretty much confirmed, you know, most of this stuff did happen. There's nothing that is really wrong here. There's no kind of changing what has actually happened, which is kind of crazy. They say, to Bao, since the start, I've always admired you and how genuine you've been to everyone. I won't be here without you either. I'm disgusted with myself for buying into the narrative that my friends were competition. I've never had such genuine friendships in my life, especially with you. We've gotten to know each other so well, and in person, you've already been through so much, and the last thing I want to do is cause you more harm, but I did. I'm sorry for not reaching out sooner about these ideas that were put into my head. I wish we would have been able to talk about this too. I didn't know about the severity of the things and had been said and theorized about my friends behind my back up until now. It's my fault for not realizing the things Red was saying about you. The countless friendships I've made here within the last several years mean so much more to me than him and the business side of things and his way of thinking. No amount of popularity or money means more to me than the relationships I built in this community. I've always been myself, whether that be on stream or in person, and I hope the friends I've made can understand I'd never condone this behavior or any of the things that were said about my friends. I've always wanted everyone around me to thrive and find happiness. I can't stress how disappointed I am, and I didn't see this sooner until it got to breaking point. I'm sorry, Bao. And then there's even more, obviously, to Sack. I love getting to chat with you in person and absolutely loved all the work you put into the Boss Rush song. Obviously, you know, they're saying sorry. I'm going to skip through some of this because obviously these are shorter kind of apologies. I'm so sorry you had to get dragged into this to Cotton and Lily. It's my fault I let it get too far, but I hope you can believe me when I say I had no knowledge of Red bringing you up in Nano's DM. So again, she's pretty much saying that she had no knowledge of these two being involved. Then we got to Silver. It says, since the start, I loved that I saw someone else showing so many similar interests to me, and I thought maybe someday we could talk about it all and be good friends. I was blinded by the hate comments around me, calling me your lesser half. I hate the person I've become towards you. I tried reaching out some time ago to try to start up a friendly conversation to change things up and make things right. Say hi to you at conventions and support your endeavors. But despite all of it, I was being eaten alive by my own doubts of fear and or harassment. I was pressured by the community as a whole to reaching out to collaborate since I got messages so often comparing to us. So again, yeah, she's constantly being compared, and, you know, it still doesn't make up for the fact that, you know, she thought that way about Silver over something that, you know, she didn't do. To Peaches, I'm sorry if it seemed like I was ghosting you. Again, that's pretty much the whole reply of that one. To Rain, you were the first person I met as an ASMR artist during a time I was immature and vulnerable. I ended up being consumed by the content I was making, and it led me to making some awful decisions I still think about and regret. I was not in a good spot at the time. I've hated myself for this kind of behavior, and it took a long time for me to move on from what happened. I have no excuses. I'm sorry you were dragged into any drama, and I'm sorry I made you feel after. I just wanted to close the book on things. I'm so sorry to my Pyro Pups and my mods for expecting me to lead a better example than this. I'm sorry to the VTuber community for looking towards me as something to aspire to. I'm sorry to Kaiser, who put his heart and soul into everything he's ever done for me, and not even talking to you about how I felt. I'm sorry to dozens of artists that I've put their hard work into me, and I'm sorry to the rest of my friends who I've let down. I've led a bad example, and I don't expect forgiveness. I've made my mistakes over the 5 years on the internet. I'm the only one person living the one life I get for the first time and only time, like everyone else. As I said at the start, I ended up developing an extremely unhealthy work-life balance, and the harm Red has caused with the way he viewed things is irreparable. The way I've perceived things lately is not how I want to view the world moving forwards, and this goes to show there's a lot I need to address and improve. If I'm to continue being a content creator, if I'm to continue being a content creator, I'm devastated that the friendships so special to me may understandably never be mended again. I love my job. I love all my friends I've had. Thank you for reading, Cinder. So that is the entire apology. That was a long slog. Yeah, so pretty much a TLDR of what, you know, happened. Pretty much all of this stuff happened. There is nothing wrong with the information, really. There is no incorrect kind of evidence that have come out, you know, in some of the previous videos. You guys can go watch it again, you know, if you want to. But again, none of it was wrong, but some of it may have been more on the side of Redacted. But either way, it's either coming from Cinder or her management. And whenever it comes to the management, of course, she should have had more control over it, and obviously it's her fault for not, you know, controlling the management and overseeing what was going on. I understand people have busy lives, but let's be real, you know, this stuff has kind of spiraled out of hand, especially due to Redacted's, you know, actions, but also Cinder had a very big part in it too. You know, the whole Silvervale stuff, that's completely her fault. She shouldn't have been doing that at all. And I don't, you know, it's an apology to some people, but I think, you know, what's really gonna come from this is whether these VTubers actually accept this apology or not, you know, because it seems like a lot of people are not happy with her. I mean, let me just refresh the replies. Is there any replies from VTubers? No. Like, look, BuffPup here saying, dude, fuck off. So, I mean, BuffPup is a very popular VTuber, and it seems like this has been a pretty stinky apology. I'm gonna be real, you know. I mean, it's an apology, but like, there is no, you know, changing anything. There is no change in what's happened. She's pretty much just admitted to all of it, and, you know, maybe, you know, some stuff was more done by Redacted, but all of this stuff still happened. All of these people were still affected, and she still hasn't mentioned some of the other people that have put out some stuff. As I said, she should have waited a week. She should have waited a week, gone through it, and actually, you know, made a better apology than this, but it's not good enough. And I feel like it's going to be very hard for her to get back into the space, especially into the happy, you know, VTuber community where, you know, they don't like people like this, and they're probably never going to let her back in. Now, in terms of controversial people and just being a, you know, indie kind of, you know, VTuber, maybe on her own, just, you know, being a little bit more controversial and not really interacting with anybody, maybe that's an option for her. But again, I hope that she doesn't come back to streaming for a bit. I hope that she goes and just thinks about things, because again, it's not good enough. And obviously, yeah, it's just one of these things that it's not going to change, you know. And if a lot of this stuff and there was no changes to the situation, it's pretty bad, and it's still pretty bad. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this. Do you think that, you know, this is still pretty bad for Cinder? Did you like this apology? Do you think it was good? I don't think it was. I think it was fine. You know, obviously apologize to people, but, you know, it's not our place to accept it. It's other people's, you know. She's pretty much confessed to all of this stuff, and obviously, you know, the cheating, the, you know, Silvervale, all of that. and also Redacted has done a lot of harm as well. So again, very, very bad. But if you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Yeah, keep notifications on because I will be making more videos depending on responses, everything like that. But yeah, crazy situation overall. But yeah, that's all. See ya.